Hi everyone, my name is Terry Westwell and today is Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our book of the week, which is You Are Fatally Invited. So this is the spoiler-free section where we'll discuss any spoiler-free points, so if you haven't read this book yet, don't worry about it, it won't be spoiled for you here. There will be some spoiler-related things that I want to discuss, but that will be later on in the video, and you will get plenty of warning. If you'd like to join in discussing any of the upcoming books, send me your thoughts, comments, or even a short video clip of you discussing the book, then I'll list the next 4 books in the description below. I have way less thrillers and horrors on my TBR than I do romance and fantasies. I have tons of those. So whenever I go food shopping, I do try and keep an eye out for any thrillers that look interesting. So when I picked this one up, I knew next to nothing about it. It was a random find at Asda, and I picked it up purely because I thought that the cover looked interesting. And I have to say that I wasn't wrong. I mean, I love the film Clue, and that's exactly what this book was giving. I mean, maybe less of a focus on the comedy and more of a focus on the mental health problems, but that was certainly the vibe I was getting. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I rated it 4.5 stars, and the reason that it didn't make it to a full 5 stars, I think, were such minor reasons. Okay, so quick summary. Legendary mystery author J.R. Alistair's books are sold all over the world, but no one knows his real name. After years of hiding in the shadows, he sends out 6 invitations to a murder mystery retreat on his private island. Mila was hired to ensure that the week runs smoothly. She's yearned for revenge on a ghost from her past for years, and this might just be her chance to get it. The 6 best-selling thriller authors accept their invitation without question. It's an opportunity that any author would kill for. What should have been a week of trope-filled games takes a sinister turn when one of the guests are found dead, and the others find themselves in the midst of a nightmare drawn from Alistair's dark imagination. They may have written thrillers, but now they must survive one. If I had to compare this to any other book, it certainly wouldn't be an exact match. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Blood Orange or The Murder After the Night Before, but it also kind of reminds me a little bit of The Thursday Murder Club. Although between you and me, this book was a million times better than that book, and I definitely preferred the writing style and the overall pacing of this one. It's not exactly a new concept. I mean, there's probably a ton of other books and films that I could compare this to. It was a classic whodunit. They even mentioned the game Clue a couple of times within the book. But in my personal opinion, I think that this one was done really well. It was so easy to read, and the pacing was just enough to keep you hooked on every page. I do like a big twist shock ending, and although this book did have me guessing the whole way through, I think that's where this book kind of let me down a little. I feel like the book kind of led you to the answer before the big reveal, so when it did happen, I just didn't really feel too shocked about it, but maybe that's just me. I do think the ending could have been more dramatic. Not that I'm too disappointed, because it all made sense and it was an interesting story that had me guessing and then second guessing myself. I did really enjoy it. I also think that despite the jumping around from one person's perspective to another, which is something I usually hate, it was still really easy to read. I think it actually worked out so much better having everyone else's perspectives and the perspectives of characters whose identity were actually hidden. I think it really added to that sense of mystery. Okay, so something that I mention, I think, every time that I'm not sure anybody else but me really cares about, but the chapter lengths in this book were really nice and short, and we all know that I love a short chapter, but in this book's case, I think that it really played a part in making it easy to read despite all of the different characters. When I first started this book, I thought it was going to be one of those situations where I was never going to remember any of the characters. I was going to struggle with who's who, and I was going to get mixed up with them all of the time, which usually does happen when it's from everyone's perspectives, but not in this case. It was actually pretty easy and quick to wrap my head around the characters and who they all were. I mean, I think the short chapters helped because It constantly made me feel like they were in my line of sight, and I was never really in a situation where I was thinking, who the hell is Fletcher again? Also, despite there being so many characters, they all felt totally different and really well fleshed out without bombarding the reader with a ton of useless information. There was definitely like a mixed bag of feelings towards some of the characters. I mean, some of them I definitely rooted for, and others I was just straight up suspicious of them, while there was definitely one character that just pissed me off the whole time. The book jumps into things like almost immediately, knowing that something is going on within the very first chapter. It was very easy to read and it keeps you guessing, and overall I just think it was done really well. So as for the question, would I recommend the book? Absolutely, I think it's an easy crowd pleaser. I mean, whodunits are a classic for a reason, and I think that this one was done really well with its own unique twist. So will I be reading any more from this author? Absolutely. I mean, it's a little shameful, but I don't actually know much about this author or their other books, but I will be looking out for more from them in the future. So earlier on in the video, I said that you would get plenty of warning for any spoilers ahead. Now, this is that point, so if you haven't read this book yet, I would suggest going doing that first, because beyond this point, there'll definitely be spoilers. Did anybody else have those moments where they wished that they could reach into the book and slap Fletcher, because he was a constant annoyance? I mean, it was pretty obvious from the beginning that he was going to be a nightmare about everything, and he clearly had a lot to hide, even though if you don't feel like you've done anything wrong, then why not just be honest with them from the start? Like, Fletcher clearly just wanted to be difficult no matter what crossed their paths, and he always just wanted to sound like the smartest guy in the room, when in fact he often just sounded like the biggest arsehole in the room. I really liked the fact that we got a glimpse from everybody's perspectives and it gave nothing away. Like, I wouldn't have known just from their chapters alone who Alistair was. Or any of the mystery characters. I mean, when we were first introduced to the serial killer, I had no clue who it was. Even though the pool of suspect has been greatly reduced, I still had no idea. I think that it was done in a very clever way not to give away too much information. I was honestly rooting for Mila and Ashton, but at the same time I was a little bit doubtful because Alistair had said that he was lying about not remembering what had happened to his friend. Like, I just sort of took it as truth, and it didn't even really occur to me until much later on that maybe Alistair was wrong and just too close to the situation. I loved how it all came together in the end, how they were all connected and why they were all there. It was just so satisfying. However, one thing that really annoyed me, and I hate it when good books decide to do this, but I understood what was going on. I understood how it was all connected and why. I was able to read between the lines and connect the dots. So tell me, why did we have a whole damn chapter explaining it? I just felt like it was so unnecessary, and honestly, it was part of the reason why it didn't make it to 5 stars for me. Like, I think it was clear without the explanation, but if you thought it was too vague, then you really should fix the problem properly instead of just lazily having your characters round it all up in a conversation at the end. Small rant over, I still really enjoyed the book, I really hate it when they feel the need to do that. Other than that, the ending was great. I mean, there was a certain point where it was quite obvious. I mean, I think it was likely to be someone we already presumed to be dead, and once we found out who the serial killer was, it really solidified that for me. I mean, it probably wasn't going to be Fletcher or the 2 employees because they were all unalived by the serial killer. So was Ashton, but we didn't know at that point that he had faked his own murder. So that only really leaves Rodrigo or Cassandra. And we never saw Cassandra's body, so her death was arguably the easiest one to fake. I will admit that I didn't guess that until we're nearing towards the end, and her chapters really throw you off. One more small rant, but fuck Violet. I mean, they may have worked things out and she may have felt bad about what she did and fixed things in the end, but does anyone else feel like she may have left Mila in a burning building a little bit too easily? I mean, Mila decides to sacrifice herself because she can't possibly leave Violet, her enemy, in there to die, and Violet really doesn't put up much of a fight, I'm just saying. But let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? Next week we'll be discussing Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, so don't forget to get your thoughts and comments in by the 30th of March at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram or Discord. The following week will be the Inheritance games, but don't forget if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose the genre that best suits you and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for watching, and if you liked this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, it's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye. If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message.